Every year there are about 10,000 cases of dowry reported from across the country. A woman gets married and instead of basking in marital bliss, she's harassed for dowry, for constant gifts from her marital home, and in some cases she is driven to death or suicide. The Act states that the husband or his family members can be punished with up to 3 years imprisonment, and it is non-bailable. In the last crime report of NCRB, there seems to have been a 1.6% decrease of dowry cases as well. In fact, data suggests that convictions have always been very, very low. But last week, the Supreme Court also suggested that arrests should not be done so quickly. They also suggested that committees should be taken up before such arrests were made. This was after the issue was also raised in Parliament, and now WCD, that's the Women and Child Development Minister Maneka Gandhi, has said that there should be a window in National Commission of Women to look after and address men's complaints as well. This has had women's activists really protest. But on agenda today, we'll be hearing from the stakeholders. We have with us someone whose daughter died in a dowry case in 2010. We also have the BJP MP who has taken it up in Parliament, and also joining us, National Commission of Women Chair Lalita Kumara Mangalam. But first, I'd like to go across to Girendra Singh. And your daughter tragically died in 2010.
Yeah.
Now, sir, when you heard this issue, 498A, which is the Anti-Dowry Act, has always been contentious. People have always said that too many people are arrested. Family members, old women, senior citizens, they've always been put behind bars without any questions asked as soon as there's been a case. When you hear that the government is moving, when you heard the Supreme Court, sir, how did it impact you?
Actually, in 2011, a commission was set up in the chairmanship of Sri Rakesh Nathani. He is Joint Director, Rajya Sabha Secretariat. At that time also, they said to weaken this 498A. But in actually, to understand 498A, how the arrest has took place. First of all, to book a person accused under this section is not in the power of a citizen to lodge any FIR under section 498A.
Okay.
It is not possible anybody without any reason to book under 498A, and so Honorable Subdivision Magistrate SDM of every area.
So you're saying it's already very difficult.
Yeah.
But ये जब आप सुनते हैं कि ऑलरेडी कोर्ट का ये एनसीआरबी का डेटा है कि बहुत कम कन्विक्शंस होते हैं इसमें, आई थिंक 10% से ज़्यादा कम कन्विक्शंस होते हैं इसमें, और डेटा ये भी सजेस्ट करता है कि डाउरी डेथ्स के केसेस भी कम हो गए हैं। इस वजह से सरकार सोच रही है या फिर इस वजह से कोर्ट ने भी कहा, तो क्या आप सोचते हैं कि वो बात सही है?
नहीं, बिल्कुल गलत है।
क्यों?
इसलिए कि पहले तो ये सोचना जरूरी है इसमें कि 498 क्या है। 498 जो है केवल एक ही सेक्शन है जिसमें मतलब लेडीज को कोई रिलीफ कोर्ट ने दिया है, और ये सेक्शन बहुत ऑल ऑफ ए सडन ऐड नहीं हो गया। आफ्टर 10 ईयर और डिकेड्स ऑफ फाइटिंग ऑफ वुमेन्स फोरम्स ऑन वेरियस प्लेटफॉर्म्स, इट गोज देयर इन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन।
राइट।
498 सेक्शन।
आपके केस में, आपके डॉटर के केस में कितने लोग जेल गए थे? उनके हस्बैंड?
ओनली हस्बैंड वाज देयर हु वाज अरेस्टेड।
राइट सर।
और 12 महीने तक यू वोंट बिलीव नोबडी वाज अरेस्टेड, एवरीबडी वाज डूइंग हिज जॉब इजीली।
एंड आफ्टर 1 ईयर?
आफ्टर 1 ईयर दे फाइल्ड SLP इन सुप्रीम कोर्ट ऑफ इंडिया।
ओके।
उस SLP के बाद में हमें पता चला कि मतलब उन्होंने अपने सेफ गार्ड के लिए फाइल की थी।
ओके।
और आप विश्वास नहीं करेंगे, उस SLP का जो है सुप्रीम कोर्ट एक कोई भी मतलब आता है तो स्टेट के वर्सेस केस होते हैं, ये उसमें एक नोटिस इशू करता है। वो नोटिस होम मिनिस्ट्री के थ्रू जाता है। 3 महीने तक हमें यही पता नहीं चला कि कोई नोटिस इशू हुआ है। जो नोटिस इशू वहाँ से हुआ उसकी फाइल जो आती है होम मिनिस्ट्री सेक्रेटरीट में आई।
Right. And just for our viewers, Girendra Singh ji's case was thrown out by the, well, you know, he lost the case in lower court. He is now in high court. और अब जेल में कौन है sir? Nobody, because they were acquitted by the lower court. And this is actually true of most of the cases. Most of them don't result in a conviction. This is one of the reasons being cited by the men's rights activist. Anshul Verma is the BJP MP who has raised this issue in court. Why is it, Anshul Verma? Here, sitting right next to you is a father who tragically lost his daughter in a dowry case. The dowry cases are still going on. Why is it that you're fighting for the laws to be diluted?
First of all, my sympathies to the deceased. सबसे पहले जैसा आपने बताया, एक अंतर समझना होगा हमें 498A का डाउरी डेथ विद डाउरी एलिगेशंस। डाउरी डेथ्स, यस, इट्स सीरियस। ये नीचे इसका आंकड़े भी नीचे आ रहे हैं। डाउरी डेथ्स को हम सीरियस मोड पर ले सकते हैं, पर डाउरी एलिगेशंस के खिलाफ मेरा ये सवाल था। जो भी आपका पारिवारिक, सी देयर इज अ ब्रॉडर विजन बिहाइंड दिस। इस सवाल के माध्यम से आज आप देख सकते हैं कि परिवार टूटने की कगार पे है। अगर आप किसानों की मौत की दर देखेंगे, इसके भी मैं आंकड़े पता कर रहा हूं, गरीब वर्ग में भी ये समस्या आ गई है। हम भी सुनते आए जहाज डूबता है तो चूहे भागते हैं। आज की स्थिति ये है कि अगर किसान की फसल जा रही है, इससे पहले भी आपदाएं आई थी, कभी खुदकुशियां नहीं होती थी। खुदकुशियों का दौर जो बढ़ता चला जा रहा है, कहीं ना कहीं इसका मानसिक स्तर का दबाव रहता है। एलिगेशन सीधे लगा दिए जाते हैं 498A के तहत, जिससे कि सीधा सीधा हाफ पोर्शन डिमांड किया जाता है। आई डोंट वांट, हम सबल करना चाहते हैं नारी को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए हम लोग सब प्रावधान रखते हैं। अलाउ मी टू स्पीक। मैं ये कहता हूं कि आप डाल को उतना लचकाएं जिससे फल की प्राप्ति हो सके। यदि आप टहनी तोड़कर वृक्ष को गिराना चाहते हैं, मैं उस सोच से सहमत नहीं हूं। डाउरी डेथ, इट्स अ सीरियस थिंग, आई एम अगेंस्ट दैट।
ओके,
लेकिन एलिगेशंस जो आंकड़े थे, 27 लाख जो मैंने आंकड़े दिए थे, वो
you said 27 lakhs wrongfully accused people detained.
They were arrested since 98 to 2015.
And where is that figure from? Because it's not an NCRB.
This is from the research wing. I can
the figure is wrong.
Which research wing?
This figure is
wrong. It's a parliament research wing. I can provide that data.
No, which parliament research wing?
And there's a department in
NCRB doesn't have it.
When you demand for specific records, they provide you.
So you claim.
He's saying wrongly
So
arrested.
where is this data from? 27 lakhs?
See, I can tell you.
Of what?
27
because
lakh
the NCRB
people.
data is completely different.
That is
if you look at the NCRB data that was cited in the Supreme Court order, it is dramatically different,
See,
which demonstrates that 5% of the judgment of the what you call false cases under mistake of fact. So 5%, right? 5% is very different, and the number ranged from, I think, 6,000 out of 6,000 to 8,000 in 2009 and 2010. I have the data
well, you
here.
have to correct
so
it,
your
27
lakh
than,
data is, you know, I'm afraid completely
cases.
incorrect and like has no credibility.
Can I intervene?
Okay, one second. I'll come to you. Deepika, you'll also have Deepika Bhardwaj, who is a documentary filmmaker who's made a documentary on those who've been wrongfully charged under these law, and Karuna Nandi, Supreme Court advocate. Now, before we go to them, I just want to go across to Lalita Kumaramangalam. Lalita Kumaramangalam, where does the National Commission of Women stand on this issue? You've also been asked to have a separate window for men to approach you.
Yeah, hi, good evening. I'll answer this question in two parts because you actually asked two questions.
Yes.
First, I'd like to say that regardless of whatever my personal opinion may be, it's not important on the show. I'm here as the chairperson of the NCW, and I will reply on, as being the chairperson of the NCW. First of all, what needs to be understood here is the background to the misuse of 498A. Now, 498A is being misused. I'm not saying, I don't know if the numbers this gentleman has provided are actually correct or not.
They're not.
But the misuse of it is very, very rare. But we need to look at the background behind what is actually happening. Most women go to the police station complaining of domestic violence. 498A, actually many people are forgetting this, is not only about dowry, it is also about cruelty. It covers cruelty of various types in the marriage. Now, to come back to what women normally go to a police station for, they go complain about DV. The Domestic Violence Act does not have any role for lawyers in it. Once an FIR is filed, a woman can go directly to court, etc. But unfortunately, in this country, not only are women very, very unaware of what their own rights are, they also go to a police station or approach an organization like NCW only when they are at the end of their tether, when they have been bashed about, when they are tired of whatever is being thrown at them. And there are too many women like this in this country. This is why 498 was advocated for, and many years ago it was brought in as an amendment to the dowry law. Now, what I am trying to say is that when you go to the police station, what does a woman first hear? This is, you know, a family matter, it is a small thing, what is the big deal, go home and solve it on your own. Or she is told what is going to happen to you and your children if you are thrown out on the street. Or there is so much pressure put on her by socio-economic elements, whether it is, you know, her lack of money or access to any sort of wherewithal to survive on her own, or her family, her friends, everybody around her is saying, why do you want to break up the marriage? It's the woman's job to save a marriage, etc., etc. Finally, she is so fed up, she doesn't know where to go, she goes to a lawyer. What does the lawyer say? That you want relief, right? Under 498, if we file dowry, I'll get you the relief. And this is what happens. I agree that it is a misuse, but anybody looking at a law must also look at the antecedents of why that law actually came into force, and that is not being looked at properly here. We receive about 23,000 average complaints a year. Over 60% of these are domestic violence cases. Nobody is looking at domestic violence in a marriage.
That's a
498A also looks at cruelty, but here only dowry is being quoted.
Okay, so
and this is what I'd like to make very clear to all viewers.
Right.
I'm only talking, as I said, on the basis of statistics that I can prove. I can give it to you. It's not a problem at all.
That's a really important
I'm not talking about NCRB or anything else or any research, etc.
Okay, so Deepika, respond to that. It may not be, as she's saying, it may not be dowry, but it's still women being harassed, abused. So why would you want a dilution of that? Who get reprieve then because of this law?
So there are two things. I am not really exactly responding to Lalita ma'am, but just making a point here. When she says people go to or women go to NCW when they are at the last thread, I'm sorry, I don't agree to that, because I have personally received information and calls from people whose complaints have been, and of course husbands whose complaints have been fined because there was a tiny dispute between the husband and wife, and husband in anger stopped talking to the woman, and she went to NCW. There was a complaint of domestic violence, exaggerated things filed, and the family was counseled. Now, of course, anybody can say that would be my personal experience. Now, second, when Supreme Court has said this, they are not ignoring the plight of women who are abused, or, you know, the whole now sort of opposition to the Supreme Court guideline. They have very categorically said, we are conscious of the object for which the provision was brought into the statute. At the same time, violation of human rights of innocent cannot be brushed aside. And I'm really thankful to Supreme Court for bringing the human rights violation perspective into this, because this exactly is that. Nobody is saying that women should not be protected. I mean,
I understand what you're saying.
Every time a guideline has come on addressing this issue of misuse of women-centric laws, feminists have gone around and said,
no, so
this is the worst that could happen to the women.
Karuna Nandi, we heard what Anshul Verma is saying. What the data suggests, Karuna Nandi, we may doubt, we may not have, 27 lakhs may not be corroborated as such, but which Anshul Verma is citing as wrongful arrest. What is a fact is that the dowry cases and dowry deaths have gone down. 10% of dowry deaths have gone down. NCRB also suggests that the cases have also gone down. So, does it require a rethink? Why is a rethink a bad idea, is what I'm asking you.
A rethink is not a bad idea.
Okay.
You know, there are laws on perjury, for example, where if somebody is proven to be lying under oath, that apply across the board. So, for example, one thing, you know, in contract law, if a contract is not working out, very often cheating cases are brought, criminal cheating cases are brought. And whether or not there was an intent to cheat or whether the contract in just a civil matter broke down, right? So now we don't find that much focus on that, Sunitra, right? There's lots of studies from around the world, like The Guardian did a very interesting article actually, where they measured the fact of the perception of wrong cases and actual false cases.
Okay. Yeah, because the numbers are what's problematic over here.
Well, I'll cite the numbers that the Supreme Court cited. Let's leave everything else aside, since they are here sort of very happy about the Supreme Court order, and I feel that perhaps there were various things that were not placed before the court, you know. Let us address the data as the Supreme Court has cited. But just to finish the point that I was making earlier, the perception of false cases is much greater across the world than the reality of that. Why is that? Because whenever you have the hegemony of a particular group that is challenged, the backlash is fast and the backlash is intense.
Right.
So we find that when there are progressive anti-violence laws, when there are progressive laws regarding cruelty in the context of marriage, immediately you see the backlash, right? Whereas when you see the potential misuse in the context of contract, that is dealt with under the normal law, which is malicious prosecution, perjury, etc. On the data, since the data issue has been raised, let us stick to the data that the Supreme Court has itself cited. And I'm quoting from the judgment. According to the NCRB in 2005, for a total of 1,27,560 people were arrested and 6,141 cases were declared false on account of mistake of fact or law, right?
Okay.
This is 5%. In 2009, for a total of a total of 174,395 people were arrested and 8,000 cases were declared false.
Okay.
That's again 5%.
So Sunitra, I'm
so
telling
if
you,
I
there
may
is
just
no
finish,
point
madam.
discussing.
So you see, the thing is that we see a lot of the backlash in these cases is very intense, and I think the difficulty that a lot of women are having.
So the fear is that women. What is your worst fear?
The worst fear is that the reason that experts the world over do not advise counseling in the situation of domestic violence is because the power imbalance is massive. The state is not usually able to protect the woman when the man then angered attacks the woman in return. The woman falsely sometimes gets some sense of security, but the committee has no power nor ability to protect the woman physically.
And what Karuna Nandi is of course referring to
is... And there is a possibility of dowry death that 498A, the complaints were limiting and preventing, and now that has been taken away.
Okay, what Karuna Nandi is referring to is of course the Supreme Court suggestion that set up before arrest.
Order, not suggestion.
Order. And they set up family welfare committees in every district to look into the case. So we'll get both Anshul Verma and Deepika to respond to that. And you had a question. What's your question? Yeah, go ahead.
I don't really have a question. I just wanted to re-quote what the Honorable MP said in the beginning. So sir, you said that only dowry deaths are supposed to be taken seriously. So a woman has to die for the court to actually make
that's an excellent
point.
It's an excellent point.
Yeah, go ahead.
And when it's not, and when it's just potential for the man to commit violence or kill, then you're just sending him back home. And also another thing, I don't want to go off topic, but you also said you blame farmer suicide on women, right?
Okay, so we'll let him respond to his comparison with the farmer suicides and more questions just a bit. We'll take a short break, be right back with the responses to that question about the comparisons over here. Stay with us. Welcome back. We're talking about the Supreme Court's order about limiting arrests in dowry cases. It's got activists really agitated. BJP MP Anshul Verma has been advocating this cause. You heard the question before. Many people asking why, how can you compare it to farmer suicides?
मैंने जैसे पहले भी कहा था
जी
एक पहलू हम सिक्के का देखेंगे तो दूसरे के साथ इंसाफ ना होगा। मेरा सवाल अगर आप गौर से देखेंगे तो मैम जो पुरुष वर्ग है उसकी तरफ बढ़ती हुई चिंताओं की तरफ ध्यान आकर्षित किया था। सवाल के साथ साथ एक ये चीज जो मैंने आंकड़े दिए थे, मैडम बिल्कुल सही कह रही हैं, जो एनसीडब्ल्यू का कोट कर रही है, मेरे कंप्लेंट्स सिंस 98 to 2000 पे। Allow me to speak. Okay, allow me to speak please मैम। इन चीजों के बाद जो फॉल्स केसेस हैं, सुप्रीम कोर्ट 2005 से अपने उस डिसीजन में कहा, मैडम इस चीज से इत्तेफाक रखेंगी, लीगल टेररिज्म जैसे शब्द से नवाजा गया था 498A को। मैं नहीं कह रहा हूं, सुप्रीम कोर्ट की जजमेंट,
इस जजमेंट में तो नहीं है
मैडम, इस जजमेंट में 2005 की ही बात
जजमेंट में भी है, रमेश कुमार
ठीक है। मेरा कहना यह है कि आज की इस दबाव भरी जिंदगी में जब फॉल्स केसेस इनिशिएट किए जाते हैं, ये केसेस,
आपने सुना ललिता जी ने कहा कि बहुत कम इंस्टेंसेस हैं फॉल्स केसेस के, आप उस पे क्या कहेंगे?
मैडम मेरे ख्याल से अगर ये तथ्य सही होता तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट को इसको लीगल टेररिज्म कहने की जरूरत नहीं थी।
आई नो, बट एनसीडब्ल्यू की चेयरपर्सन, या दीपिका,
when we are talking about false cases, we have to look at very seriously at this issue that NCRB doesn't record cases, false cases that have led to acquittal.
Absolutely.
That is just acquittal or conviction. So there are n number of cases which are absolutely false, fabricated. Eventually they will lead to acquittal, right? We don't have statistics on that. And as far as suicides is concerned, there is a large number of suicides of men. Now suicide of a woman is registered as a dowry death if she is unmarried within 7 years. Suicide of a man because of domestic violence, because of false cases, does not have a category here.
Okay, we're totally out of time, which is why I want to end it with Girinder Singh ji.
Like a very brief point here.
Very quickly.
You know, 498A, they are not wrong. In a tiny minority of cases, it is misused. Why is it misused in that tiny minority of cases? Ignoring the fact that, you know, like this gentleman's daughter who was killed because of dowry, right?
Yes.
Where 498A case now would be extremely difficult. She would be much more likely to be killed now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, if I may
the
just
data
finish.
doesn't
And so therefore, the
that,
tiny
Karuna.
minority of cases, right, the reason it's misused is this, is that Hindu women, when they get divorced, only get part of the property that is under their joint name with their husband. And that's a very tiny proportion of the property, even if they've put money into it.
Yeah.
In terms of custody, it's sometimes like a long drawn out battle. So
I think it's a
interim
very
orders are
relevant
rare.
point because
So
it
that
brings into the
context is a
point of
problem.
money here.
We're totally out of time. गिरिंदर सिंह जी, आप सुप्रीम कोर्ट को क्या कहना चाहेंगे? एक लाइन में बता
मैं
दीजिए।
ये कहना चाहूंगा कि दोनों बातें अलग अलग हैं। जब किसी के साथ में कोई घटना होती है, पहले तो ये कह रहे हैं, जो क्रूअल्टी की बात कर रहे हैं,
हाँ,
क्रूअल्टी में जो है,
आपका मैसेज टू सुप्रीम कोर्ट एज द फादर ऑफ समवन हु died in a dowry case.
नहीं,
आपका मैसेज क्या है
the
सुप्रीम कोर्ट?
honorable Supreme Court should not dilute this 498A.
Okay.
Neither he should indulge it with the other cases or false data.
Well, hopefully the government is listening to this very, very complicated and complex issue. It is the matter of a larger debate as well, but that's all we have time for on Agenda. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.